Have you ever felt confused by someone who seems to care about you, but at the same time keeps their distance? One day they feel close, warm, present, and then suddenly they pull away. No explanation, no clear reason, just silence. And it leaves you wondering something painful. Do they actually care, or are you just imagining it? This confusion is one of the most emotionally draining experiences a person can face in relationships because the signals feel mixed, the energy feels inconsistent, the connection feels real, but the distance feels real too. But here is something most people never learn. When someone has an avoidant personality, love does not look the way most people expect it to look. It does not appear loud, it does not appear obvious, and it definitely does not appear in the typical romantic way society teaches us. Instead, it shows itself in quiet actions, subtle behaviors, small moments that are easy to miss if you do not understand the psychology behind them. And that is exactly what makes avoidant love so confusing, because on the surface, their behavior can look like disinterest, but underneath the surface, something much deeper is happening. Inside the mind of an avoidant person, there is a constant emotional conflict. Part of them wants connection, but another part of them fears it. This fear is not random, it did not appear overnight. It was built slowly through life experiences that taught them something powerful, that relying on people can be risky, that vulnerability can lead to disappointment, that emotional closeness can sometimes turn into emotional pain. So they develop a survival strategy, distance. Not because they do not feel emotions, but because emotions feel overwhelming. And the more they start caring about someone, the stronger that inner alarm becomes. Think about that for a moment. For most people, love makes them move closer. But for an avoidant person, love can actually trigger the instinct to step back. Not because they want to lose the connection, but because their mind is trying to protect them from getting hurt. This is where so many misunderstandings happen. Someone sees distance and immediately assumes the worst. They do not care. They are not interested. They are playing games. But psychology tells a different story. Avoidant individuals are not emotionless. In fact, many of them feel emotions very deeply. The difference is that they learned early in life to hide those emotions, even from themselves. They learned to rely on independence, to handle problems alone, to avoid situations where they might feel emotionally exposed. So when real feelings start developing, their instinct is to control the situation. Sometimes that means slowing down the connection, sometimes it means creating space, and sometimes it means acting calm on the outside, while their mind is full of thoughts and emotions they do not fully understand. This is why avoidant behavior often looks confusing. You might see them pull away after a meaningful conversation. You might notice them becoming quiet when things start feeling emotionally close. You might feel like they are interested but hesitant. And that hesitation can feel frustrating if you do not understand where it comes from. But here is the truth most people never realize. Avoidant people do not stay emotionally connected to people they truly do not care about. If someone means nothing to them, they detach quickly. They disappear. They move on. They do not keep the connection alive. But when an avoidant person continues to stay present in your life, even in small ways, something deeper is happening, because staying connected requires emotional effort for them. Every message, every conversation, every moment of closeness, it all requires them to step outside of their comfort zone, and that is where the hidden meaning begins to appear, because when an avoidant person genuinely loves someone, their behavior begins to shift in subtle ways. The walls they built over the years do not disappear overnight, but they start to move, slowly, quietly, almost invisibly. And if you do not understand the psychology behind those small shifts, you might miss the signs completely. You might think their silence means distance, when sometimes it actually means they are processing emotions they have never learned how to express. You might think their space means rejection, when sometimes it means they are trying to regulate feelings that suddenly feel too intense. This is why understanding the avoidant mind changes everything, because once you learn how their emotional world works, the confusion begins to make sense. You start noticing patterns that were invisible before. You begin recognizing behaviors that quietly reveal something powerful, not indifference, not manipulation, but a complicated form of care. And in the next part, you will discover something even more important. You will understand the hidden battle happening inside the avoidant mind, the internal struggle between the desire for connection and the fear of losing control. Because once you understand that inner conflict, you will start seeing their actions in a completely different way. Understanding this emotional pattern reveals something deeper that many people never see. Inside the avoidant mind, there is a constant pressure between two powerful forces. One side longs for closeness, the other side is afraid of what that closeness might bring. This tension does not disappear when feelings grow stronger. In many cases, it actually becomes more intense. That is why their behavior can sometimes feel unpredictable. A moment of connection can suddenly be followed by distance. A meaningful conversation may be followed by quiet reflection. This shift does not happen because the feeling disappeared. It happens because the emotional intensity becomes difficult to manage. For someone who learned to rely on independence for emotional safety, strong attachment can feel overwhelming. Their mind tries to regain balance. The instinct is to slow everything down. This response is not designed to push someone away. It is designed to protect their sense of control. Psychology shows that people who developed avoidant attachment patterns often grew up in environments where emotional expression was not always welcomed or supported. Over time, they learned a powerful lesson: depending on others might lead to disappointment, so they became strong on their own. They learned how to solve problems alone, how to process stress privately, how to keep their emotions guarded. This independence becomes part of their identity. It feels safe, it feels familiar, it feels. But when a meaningful connection appears in their life, something unexpected happens. Their usual emotional system begins to face new pressure. Part of them wants to experience the warmth of that connection. Another part feels the instinct to remain protected. This is why avoidant individuals sometimes appear calm, even when their inner world is active with thoughts and feelings. They are not ignoring the connection, they are trying to understand what it means, and that understanding takes time. Many people expect emotional closeness to grow quickly, but for someone with avoidant tendencies, trust develops slowly. Every new level of closeness must first pass through an internal filter. Their mind quietly asks questions. Is this safe? Will this connection respect my independence? Will I still feel in control of my life? If the answer to these questions feels uncertain, their instinct becomes caution. Yet something very interesting happens when their feelings are genuine. Instead of leaving, they remain. Not always with dramatic gestures, not always with obvious words, but through presence. They keep the connection alive in subtle ways. They continue communicating, even if the pace feels slower than expected. They remain attentive to what matters in the other person's life. To an outside observer, these behaviors may seem small, but inside the avoidant mind, each step represents a quiet act of courage, because emotional closeness requires them to challenge habits that protected them for years. That process does not happen overnight. It unfolds gradually. Think of it like someone opening a door that has been locked for a very long time. The movement is careful, the steps are measured, but the intention is meaningful. This is why patience plays such an important role in understanding avoidant love. When people misinterpret their protective reactions as rejection, frustration grows quickly, pressure builds, miscommunication appears. But when someone recognizes the deeper emotional process happening beneath the surface, everything begins to look different. Moments that once seemed confusing start to make sense. The pauses, the reflection, the careful approach toward closeness. These behaviors are not random. They are part of an internal adjustment that allows them to slowly feel safe with another person. And safety is the key word here. Avoidant individuals do not open their emotional world easily. It requires a sense of stability. It requires the feeling that the connection will not overwhelm their identity. When they begin to feel that stability, small shifts appear. Their attention becomes more focused, their communication becomes more thoughtful, their presence becomes more consistent over time. Each of these signs represents something meaningful inside their emotional landscape, because someone who truly does not care will not invest energy into maintaining a connection. They will choose the easiest path. They will quietly step away. But someone who continues showing up, even while managing internal hesitation, is revealing something important. They are choosing to stay, and that choice requires strength. It means they are allowing themselves to experience emotions they once learned to avoid. It means they are exploring a deeper level of connection that may feel unfamiliar. This journey may appear slow from the outside, but inside their world, it represents real progress. Every conversation becomes a step forward. Every moment of trust becomes a new experience. Every sign of understanding creates a stronger foundation. Over time, these quiet developments begin forming something powerful, a connection built not on pressure, but on gradual emotional safety. This type of bond often grows stronger than people expect because it was not rushed, it was not forced, it was developed through patience, awareness, and respect for the emotional rhythm of two individuals learning to understand each other. And as this process continues, certain behaviors begin to appear that reveal the depth of their feelings more clearly. These signs may not look dramatic, they may not sound like traditional expressions of affection, but for someone who has spent years protecting their emotional space, these actions carry powerful meaning. They show that the walls around their heart are slowly shifting, and when those walls begin to move, something remarkable begins to happen. When those emotional barriers begin to shift, the change rarely appears dramatic. It is not a sudden transformation. It does not happen through loud declarations or constant reassurance. Instead, it appears through quiet behavior that carries meaning far deeper than it seems on the surface. One of the first signs is attention. An avoidant person may not always express emotions openly, but when they value someone, their awareness becomes focused. They begin noticing details. Small things about your life remain in their memory. Something you mentioned days or weeks ago may return in conversation. This may appear simple, but it reflects a deeper level of mental investment. Attention requires emotional space, and someone who prefers distance does not easily create that space for others. When they begin doing it naturally, it means the connection has started to matter. Another powerful signal appears in the way they maintain contact. They may not communicate constantly, yet they find ways to keep the thread of connection alive. A message, a short check-in, a response that shows they were thinking about you. These actions may feel quiet compared to the dramatic expressions often shown in movies, but in reality, they represent something stronger: consistency. Consistency is difficult for someone who is naturally protective of their independence. Maintaining communication requires effort because it invites emotional closeness. When they continue doing it, even in small ways, it reveals that the relationship holds importance in their mind. There's also another subtle shift that begins to appear over time: gradual openness. Avoidant individuals rarely share personal thoughts quickly. Their private world feels protected, almost like a locked room. For many years, they learned to keep that room closed because it felt safer. But when trust slowly begins forming, pieces of that inner world start to appear. Not all at once. Maybe they share a personal memory. Maybe they talk about a challenge they faced. Maybe they reveal something about their past that few people know. Each moment of honesty represents a meaningful step, because for someone who is used to handling emotions privately, revealing those layers requires courage. It means they are allowing another person to see them without the protection they normally rely on, and that is not easy. You may also notice something interesting in the way they spend time around you. Even if they value personal space, they begin choosing moments of presence more intentionally. Instead of avoiding closeness completely, they create balanced contact. They show up, they engage, they listen. These experiences allow them to feel connection while still maintaining a sense of stability. Over time, these shared moments become more natural. Another meaningful behavior appears in the way they respect boundaries. Avoidant individuals understand the importance of emotional independence. When they truly care about someone, they do not try to control their partner's freedom. Instead, they appreciate mutual space. This creates a unique dynamic. Rather than demanding constant attention, they encourage both people to maintain their individuality. They understand the value of personal growth and self direction. In many ways, this creates a relationship built on respect rather than pressure. Because real attachment is not about possession, it is about choosing each other while still remaining complete individuals. You may also begin to notice their protective side, not through dramatic displays but through subtle support. They may offer help when it is needed. They may show concern when something affects your well being. These gestures are rarely exaggerated, yet they carry genuine meaning, because someone who prefers emotional distance does not easily step into supportive roles unless the connection holds importance. Another quiet sign appears through patience. When avoidant individuals invest in someone emotionally, they often observe carefully. They pay attention to how situations develop. They try to understand the other person's character. This thoughtful observation allows them to feel safer as the connection grows. And when they begin trusting what they see, their behavior slowly becomes more relaxed. The guarded energy softens. Communication feels easier. Shared moments begin to carry a sense of comfort rather than tension. These developments may seem small, but they represent meaningful progress inside their emotional world. Because someone who spent years protecting their independence does not easily allow closeness to grow. When it begins happening naturally, it shows that the connection has passed an important threshold. They are no longer simply observing the relationship, they are participating in it. And participation requires vulnerability. Even if that vulnerability appears quiet and controlled, it still represents emotional investment. This is why many people misunderstand avoidant love. They expect affection to appear in obvious ways. They look for constant reassurance, dramatic words, or intense emotional displays. But avoidant affection speaks a different language. It appears through effort, through presence, through attention that remains steady even when emotions feel complex. It may not always look loud, yet it carries authenticity. Because behind every small action lies a deeper truth. They are choosing connection despite instincts that once encouraged distance. That choice represents growth. It shows that the emotional walls they built over time are no longer completely closed. Instead, they are slowly opening space for someone who has earned their trust. And when that space begins to grow, the meaning behind their behavior becomes impossible to ignore. When someone who has spent years guarding their inner world begins allowing another person into that space, something meaningful is taking place. It is not just a change in behavior, it is a transformation in the way they experience connection. For many people, affection grows naturally and comfortably. But for a person with strong emotional self-protection, developing deep attachment requires something far greater than comfort. It requires courage. Courage to remain present when feelings start becoming real. Courage to face emotions they once tried to keep controlled. Courage to stay connected even when their mind suggests returning to familiar independence. This quiet courage often goes unnoticed. From the outside, people may only see moments of calm behavior or measured communication. They might assume nothing significant is happening, yet inside that person's emotional world, an important shift is unfolding. They are learning that closeness does not always lead to loss. They are discovering that emotional connection can exist without destroying their personal freedom. This realization is powerful because for someone who once believed that relying on others would weaken them, learning that connection can exist alongside strength changes everything. Trust slowly grows in that space, not fast, not dramatically, but gradually. And when trust begins to grow, a deeper level of commitment begins to appear. You may notice that they become more dependable over time. Their actions start carrying a sense of reliability. When they say something, they try to honor it. When they promise to be present, they make an effort to follow through. Reliability is one of the strongest signs that a connection has become important to them. Because someone who does not feel invested will not consistently place energy into maintaining stability. But when the bond matters, they begin protecting it through their actions. Another meaningful development appears in their willingness to remain during difficult moments. Every relationship eventually faces tension, misunderstanding, or emotional discomfort. For someone who prefers emotional distance, these moments can feel especially challenging. Their instinct might once have been to step away completely. But when genuine has formed, they begin handling those moments differently. Instead of disappearing, they remain engaged. They try to understand what happened. They reflect on the situation and look for ways to maintain balance. This behavior demonstrates something powerful. They are no longer protecting themselves by avoiding connection. They are protecting the connection itself. That shift reveals emotional growth. Because protecting a relationship requires vulnerability. It means acknowledging that the bond has value, and value creates responsibility. Responsibility to communicate, responsibility to listen, responsibility to maintain respect for each other's emotional needs. When someone who once lived comfortably in emotional independence begins accepting that responsibility, it shows that the relationship has reached a deeper level. There is also another quiet transformation that begins to take place. Their emotional awareness increases. In the past, they may have ignored certain feelings because acknowledging them felt uncomfortable. But when a meaningful connection becomes part of their life, those emotions begin to surface naturally. They start recognizing what the other person means to them. They begin noticing how the absence of that person affects their mood. They become aware of how meaningful shared moments feel. These realizations often remain unspoken at first, yet they shape the way the relationship develops, because once someone becomes aware of how important a person is in their life, their priorities begin adjusting. They make space for the connection. They invest time. They think about the future of the bond. These quiet changes reveal something deeper than words ever could. They reveal intention, and intention is the foundation of lasting relationships. Love is not simply a feeling that appears and disappears without direction. True attachment involves conscious choice, choosing to remain present, choosing to respect each other's individuality, choosing to build something meaningful together. For someone who once depended only on themselves emotionally, making that choice represents real strength. It means they are no longer guided only by fear or self-protection. They are guided by value, value for the connection, value for the person who has become part of their life. When people begin recognizing these deeper patterns, their perspective changes completely. The confusion fades, the mixed signals start making sense. What once appeared distant begins to look thoughtful. What once felt uncertain begins to reveal quiet dedication. Understanding this truth changes the way relationships are experienced. Instead of focusing only on dramatic expressions, attention shifts toward genuine effort. Instead of expecting instant emotional intensity, appreciation grows for steady progress. Because real attachment does not always appear as loud excitement. Sometimes it appears as patience. Sometimes it appears as quiet loyalty. Sometimes it appears as someone staying in your life even while they continue learning how to navigate emotions they once avoided. And when someone chooses connection while still facing their own inner challenges, that choice carries powerful meaning. It shows that the relationship has become part of their journey, a journey where independence and closeness are no longer enemies, a journey where emotional growth becomes possible, a journey where two people can move forward not through pressure or expectation, but through understanding and respect. And in that space of understanding, something remarkable happens. The relationship becomes stronger than either person expected. Not because it was easy, but because both individuals learned how to meet each other in a place where honesty, patience, and trust quietly shape the future of their connection.